Let's kick this thing off. All right. Well, uh, hello, everybody. Thanks again for jumping in. And welcome to our webinar titled Powering Success, Accelerating Digital ROI with Whatfix. And in this session, our panelists you see before you, we're going to touch upon why traditional training programs aren't scalable on new ERP systems and platforms, I should say. How digital adoption platforms can help improve user experience and reduce training and support overhead by up to 70%. And finally, how TAM Training and Whatfix empowered the City of Bakersfield to prepare their users for day one of Oracle Cloud and also maintain a robust in-house onboarding and training program. I'm your host, Doug O'Keefe, Solutions Manager at TAM Training. And if you're not too familiar with TAM, we're a multiple award-winning Oracle and AWS authorized partner. But maybe more important for this session, we're a Whatfix certified delivery partner and champion in North America. And TAM's mission, our only mission is user adoption services. We've been providing these services to our customers and partners since 2004, be 20 years next month. And our mission is to help end users successfully adopt new technology, business processes, policies, and procedures. And as part of this philosophy, we recommend using Whatfix. And Whatfix is a digital adoption platform, ADAP, that's what we're talking about today. And it disrupts traditional application training, learning, and support content by providing in-app user guidance and automation that is contextual, interactive, and real-time. Maybe to better introduce Whatfix, I'm going to hand it over to my co-host, Mayank Arora. He's the Customer Success Manager at Whatfix.
Thank you so much, Doug, and thank you all for being here today. And let me start off with this. Every day, organizations spend millions of dollars on software that their employees struggle to use. If we talk about Oracle, SAP, Salesforce, those are not very inexpensive investments. So today, we're going to change that. What if I told you you could have a personal guide right inside your software available exactly when you need it? We call it Whatfix, and it's going to transform how your employees use software forever. Think about it. No more endless training sessions, no more support tickets, and no more frustrated user. Just simple, intuitive guidance that appears right when you need it. Today, we have something special for you. One of our joint customers, City of Bakersfield, is here to show you how exactly they made this happen for their organization. Let me quickly introduce myself before we kick this off. My name is Mayank Arora, and I'm a Customer Success Manager here at Whatfix, and I'm really excited to kick this off. Doug, let's get started.
Yeah, and I think before we introduce our panelists, let's have a quick poll. Why not, right? So for everyone joining, Whatfix poll number 1, we're going to launch it, and it's just a quick question. Are you aware of DApps, digital adoption platforms, and how they can help organizations improve their technology adoption and overall ROI? I'll give you guys a second to think about that and answer it. But let's begin. And Alexis and Rukaya, would you mind introducing yourselves? Thank you so much for joining today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us. My name is Alexis Shaw. I am the project manager with the finance department. Oh, very good.
And my name is Rukaya. Oh, sorry, boss. My name is Rukaya. I'm the project coordinator for the ERP implementation.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining again, guys. And Alexis, I'm going to start with you. So maybe could you walk us through your initial decision to implement Whatfix and for Oracle Fusion and ERP and HCM, and kind of what were the main drivers behind this choice?
So actually, Whatfix and TAM were part of one of the RFP responses that we'd received from potential implementers for Oracle replacement or our ERP replacement that we have moved into Oracle with. So we were coming off of our ERP legacy system, 27-year-old system, older than Mayank, older than Rukaya. They implemented in 1997, and it was an on-prem system, highly customized, like AS400, old server. And so we had pretty robust, RFP review process, lots of demos to get us down to the Oracle piece. What we loved about the implementer's RFP response was that it seemed like kind of an all-inclusive package, right? It included the TAM, which was the training. We saw that as really insurance for the project because we knew that that support was going to be built into the implementation process so that we weren't going to be scrambling to create training, that we were going to have kind of that extra structure in place. So that's what really kind of drew us in. And it did actually make a big impact on how we made the decision to go with the implementer that we did. There were some other pieces that they had thrown in there. Like I said, they really did create an all-inclusive package, and this was part of it. But we did feel like this was going to be having TAM, having the training piece, even and we had it for the implementation itself. We've carried on our Whatfix subscription because we saw the value in, as Mike was mentioning, having the technology in our Oracle system, guiding our folks with their learning, mitigating a ton of issues, and creating efficiency as well.
27 years. Man, just thinking about all the content that must have just not played nice together. So it was time, right?
Yeah, and it sounds like Bakersfield really thought ahead about helping people use the new system. And before I ask my first question, if I just a quick disclaimer, if you see me looking away from the screen, it's because I have a habit of making notes the old-fashioned way. So let me quickly kick this off. So my first question is for you, Ruqayyah. How did the partnership between TAM Training, Whatfix, and the City of Bakersfield contribute to the overall project success? And could you highlight some of the key collaborative moments during our journey?
Yeah, I would say our partnership was basically the ideal. We really worked together from the very beginning when we were still working on generally, understanding Oracle. And from the very beginning throughout to our go live, we made sure that Whatfix and how we were going to use Whatfix and all the knowledge we were just getting on training and training all our end users was part of the plan. There was never a moment, there was never a week when we didn't know that Whatfix was there for us and we were going to be part of TAM's plan for training. Really loved those weekly meetings, really got a lot of insight on training and using Whatfix during those meetings. So ideal for sure. In terms of a key collaborative moment, I would say it is when we were kind of paused during our ERP implementation. We still had those meetings and we never, put our foot off the gas. And we were still looking ahead when we could to plan our training, plan our reviews, plan what we could do with Whatfix.
Awesome. And thank you so much, Ruqayyah. And it is clear that working together made a really big difference. And those regular check-ins that we used to have seem really important with the overarched project. Now, next question I have for you is, how did the standardization of Whatfix flows and output contribute to the project efficiency for ERP?
Yeah, so before our new ERP system, what we really had was a dissonance, I would say, in our training documents. We had business flows, but we had nothing that went on step to step on what you needed to do to accomplish something in our system, in our old system at least. And all the departments, from what I understand, coming in, they didn't follow the same training documentation. Now, we all follow the same training documents. We all refer to the same training documents when we need to understand, how do we get something done? What are the current issues in our system? Who do we contact when we need something in the system, like access or an additional accounting string? All of that comes from the same place. And having Whatfix really gave us an insight on making sure that not only was the documentation all looking the same, all coming the same way in terms of format, but also the same voice. also, because of Whatfix being, inside the system, it is great to have because everyone goes there first. And that is always the plan, to make sure Whatfix is where you go first before you look somewhere else to get training documents. So everyone's looking at the same place, so everyone's getting the same information. That's basically standard, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it appears that we played a significant role in breaking down those silos between different departments around the city, and created a more unified approach to documentation and processes. And we're glad that we are here. Doug, I'll hand it over to you for the next question.
Yeah, and thanks, Mike. And Rakaya kind of mentioned this earlier, or just now, but this question is for Alexis. You guys did have a project delay last year. It happens, right? Like ERP projects, it's kind of a common occurrence from what we see. So, even with that happening, how did TAM and Whatfix kind of adapt to this challenge, and what strategies did we employ that you found valuable to keep the momentum going?
Right. Yeah, we did. And as I mentioned, we had an on-premise system that was highly customized, old server, very hard to migrate data. And that was a lot of why our project went on pause. And so during that time, it actually graduated us in a sense in the Whatfix system, because we had that time to take the workflows that we did have available to us. It gave us time to refine them, to make sure that we were standardizing business processes. As Rukaya was saying, we have department level business offices, and we have the finance department, and the way that they were going to be operating was very big change management thing, right? We were going to be working in different ways. Different team members were going to have new transactions they were going to be completing. It was going to create efficiency, and in some ways it was going to, because of that shift of who's doing the transaction, who's completing them, it was going to be adding work, though not in the typical paper sense. So to do that and to understand where those roles fit in, we had to have a good understanding of how the system was going to work. And with those workflows, we were able to utilize the Whatfix system to see how we could create efficiency within the Oracle system, get better at utilizing Whatfix and learning how to create content as well, right? And really optimize what Whatfix is attempting to do. Creating the beacons, creating the highlights, creating the workflows, those sorts of things. Looking at the workflows even that TAM was creating, utilizing Whatfix, and seeing where we could add in nuances for context, building on them, creating bigger process flows, that sort of thing. So without that time, we definitely wouldn't have been able to get into that deeper level of learning. Rukaya mentioned that even during that pause, we were having our weekly meetings. So we weren't killing the trajectory of the project. What we were doing is finding areas where we could really gain expertise and self-sufficiency in the system. And that was gold for us. It allowed us to really double down on our training content when it came time for end user training, and also to have tools and skills available so that when we needed to troubleshoot, which I think we'll talk about in a little bit, we could do so easily and with efficiency.
Yeah, and thank you so much for mentioning that. I mean, you never want to have a delay, but maybe it was a bit of a blessing in disguise. Just kind of like, just to illustrate that, DApps aren't just project-specific solutions; they're organizationally specific. You're taking away things that maybe weren't even in our project scope originally that you're finding beneficial. So, I totally agree with that. And before we go any further, another poll for you guys. Find the button. So poll number 2, we're going to launch. And can you guess what percentage of cost savings can be achieved in terms of training and support expenses by leveraging a DApp like Whatfix? And I'll let you guys think about that answer while I pass it over to Mike. I believe you're up now.
Oh, yeah. And Alexis, what you described with the delay, it sounds like a perfect example of when life gives you lemons, how would you make lemonade out of that? I really like your approach where you focus on continuous improvement during the delay period. And I'm pretty sure this approach to handling delays could be very valuable for many of our listeners. So thank you for sharing that. Now, next question is for Ruqayyah. Ruqayyah, can you share more about the knowledge transfer process? How did this contribute to City becoming self-sufficient in developing Whatfix flows from here on?
Yeah, I would say before our ERP implementation, we didn't know anything about utilizing a DAP, right? Much less Whatfix. So when TAM came in, when y'all came in, we, from the very beginning, were taught. It was like we already got some train the trainer in there, which is, I know, a really, really important TAM approach. From the very beginning, we were taught, what is Whatfix? What do the flows mean? How to utilize the flows? Let's have a separate meeting and let's create flows together. Let me show you how we fix errors, because we were seeing errors when you create new flows. All of the troubleshooting and these best practices were discussed during our meetings. And that really gives you an idea from the very beginning on how you manage your flows and what are best practices. Like, okay, we have this process, but is it better to have 5 different flows for your users to really understand how to do this? Or do we have 5 processes that we can consolidate into one flow? Little things like that, you don't learn until most of the time, until you're very much, years into learning a software system or managing training. We got that from the very beginning. We got that knowledge from the very beginning. And now post go live, we have that knowledge with us already. And it makes us better stewards of a system and better decision making when we're, when we have new areas we need to create flows for, or maybe a beacon, or maybe a pop-up, or maybe a launcher, we can better assess because of the knowledge we gained working with TAM and their assessments of our needs in the system.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ruqayyah. It appears mixing the online learning as well as the hands-on training since the start worked really well for us, and it's a great way to build in-house expertise. Before we jump to our next question, it's time for our final poll. Doug, would you mind launching that from your point of view?
Sure. I was saving it for the end, but we can launch it now. Yeah, why isn't it launching? Well, I'll work on that, Mike. Why don't you go ahead with the next question?
Sure. So my next question is again for you, Ruqayyah. I wanted to know, as they say, you cannot you cannot progress on something that you can't measure. So let's talk some numbers here. What metrics or feedback have you received that demonstrate the success of Whatfix implementation for City's new ERP system? And since we are here, so feel free to brag.
And I will. Together prepping for this webinar, but I'm sure during our meetings we would have found this number together as well. We learned that from the beginning in April of our go live to now, our implementation rate from Whatfix is 89.3%. We can't hear the attendees, but clap for applause. Thank you. And even now, within the last couple of months, we're still having a high implementation rate, about 50%, which is still great considering that so many of our ERP users don't necessarily need the flows as much because they've learned the system, but they still come back to them, right? They still come back to them and they're looking at other areas where we're deploying Whatfix. So really love that, really proud of that, really, from all the work we did on those flows and working with Whatfix, the time we took. In addition, just talking about analytics here, using the analytics, we've learned how to kind of look at the flows that have already been created and assess them for how they're being used. Not all of them are perfect and there's always room for improvement. So using the analytics in terms of how people are interacting with them, when they're kind of leaving them, if they complete the flow to the end, we can adjust the flows to make sure they're more user-friendly and they're more just user-friendly for everyone who goes into them. So thank you, Whatfix Analytics. And yeah, again, really proud of that 89.3%.
89.3%. Well, that's indeed impressive, Ruqayyah. And it's excellent to see, since the time we started, how you're using Whatfix analytics to drive continuous improvement for your end users. And this data-driven approach to measuring adoption, enhancing it, is really crucial. With that, I'll hand it over to Doug.
Yeah, and thanks, Mayank. And yeah, you talked about continuous improvement, right? That's developed, and we've been talking about the project itself. But back to Alexis, could you talk a little about how the in-house expertise developed during the project continues to benefit the city's onboarding training program? Maybe specifically, how has Whatfix improved user adoption and engagement with the new Oracle Cloud system?
The new Oracle Cloud system, I think with any cloud system, but especially with our Oracle Cloud system, we have, again, users spread out between departments and then within our finance department as well. So within creating the new transactions, again, adopting new tasks, change in duties, new business processes and whatnot, there's going to be times where we have pieces that we need to update team members on and getting information out, but then also reminders, right? And one of the things that's really helped is we're able to make quick tweaks in the system. We're able to add in different pieces, utilizing Whatfix to create those efficient flows, send out word like, hey, by the way, just so you know, one of our things was date matching for invoices. So with our Oracle system, when you get an invoice, even if you process it the next day, it has to go by the invoice date. So if it's July 4th, when you get that invoice, even if you're processing that invoice on July 6th, it still has to match date matching. It's July 4th as you're processing it, right? And so this was something that was coming to our accounts payable office, and they were having to kick it back out to whoever was entering those invoices, across the city, and say, hey, you got to fix your dates. So we're talking obviously like hundreds of invoices during a week. If those dates aren't matching because they're not processing them on the day that they receive them or whatever that invoice date is dated for, then they're getting a lot of rework that they're having to do going back and reviewing. So Rukaya popped in a couple of beacons, just reminding people, hey, by the way, your dates have to match. And then sent out an email saying, hey, by the way, your dates have to match. So the system is already reminding them of the thing that they've already learned. They don't have to go back and see a video. They don't have to resubmit 3 times. Now they know, match your dates, right? Saves a lot of time, saves a lot of headache, saves our AP staff a lot of calls, emails, amongst other things, and rejections and stuff. And so that's just kind of one example. And this is something that, as we have quarterly updates in our system, it's going to be new reminders. It's going to be new tweaks to our workflows. It's going to be incorporating those into the system. And so it's kind of obviously multi-generational as we continue to manage the system. And as people are taking on more cloud-based softwares, those digital adoption platforms are going to be more and more important, because those cloud softwares are made for self-sufficiency, right? Like, they're made to be managed so that your IT department doesn't have as much heat. So having these digital adoption platforms becomes kind of integral in creating that efficiency. So you're not constantly going to IT. So you're not constantly having to go back into your training documents, YouTube videos, whatever you're recording, just to make sure that the understanding is there. So having it built in has just been fantastic. Rukaya has been our champion in learning and really optimizing the system. We now have a fellow with us who's going to be with us until the spring. So he's gone through Whatfix University, and he's going to be, learning how to essentially assist with updates and adding in new features, those sorts of things. And then as we're continuing to implement our HCM piece, we'll have even more kind of shared learning on how to optimize Whatfix as well.
Yeah, shout out to Esteban, right? But thank you so much for bringing up those points, because that AP issue is maybe something we would identify in our needs analysis to kick off the project. But again, we're not talking about just getting everybody ready for day one, right? We're talking about adapt supporting your ERP system for the life cycle. So thank you so much. And yeah, and your help desk kind of loves you for that, right? For all this time you're saving. So my next question is going to actually go back to Rukaya, and we're starting to wrap it up here. So Rukaya, I asked the champion, based on your experience with this project, what advice would you give other organizations considering implementing Whatfix? maybe for their ERP, HCM, or, whatever platform?
Yeah. I would say for sure, take your Whatfix University right off the bat. Do it first, because Whatfix University, I love it. I wish I had taken it first. That's why I'm recommended to everybody. Take your Whatfix University. It gives you a real general idea of what Whatfix is and all of the features available. So if you take that first, you already know what can Whatfix do for you and plan your training with that in mind. Do you need a flow or do you need a beacon? Do you need a beacon or should you create a flow? And how can you weave that into your trainings plan? Not only that, Whatfix University, a part of the training is that you do and you create flows and beacons and tasks list as you get certified. And that really means you actually understand the system when you start. I love Whatfix University. I recommend you take it. Not only that, when you're working with TAM, maximize your collaboration and make sure you treat it like a partnership, because that's where you're going to get the best use. You're going to feel real tempted to let them handle it. And I say this a lot, you're going to feel real tempted to let them handle it because they are experts. They are certified for a reason. They have so much knowledge, but work with them so you can start learning from the masters as well. Create flows with them, take some of those onto yourself, ask about questions when it comes to errors, ask for them to show you and really listen and learn from them, because that is going to help you when you are working on your own, when you become self-sufficient. All that self-sufficiency starts when you're working with TAM and not just letting them handle it. Partnership with TAM. Not only that, I would say kind of going back into learning from TAM and Whatfix University, make sure that your subject matter experts who are going to be reviewing all the training you are creating also understand what Whatfix is, what are the features that you can create with Whatfix, because when they're thinking about, oh, this is a friction point in my process, they're thinking, oh, I know that Whatfix can do this for me. Let me just go and ask for a Whatfix flow, and not having to create a training or think about creating a meeting when Whatfix can do it for them. So those are my recommendations there.
All right, thank you so much. And of course, TAM will be there for you before, during, and after these big projects, right? But you nailed it. Thank you for saying it. Our mission is centered around making sure our customers are self-sufficient.
That's really excellent advice, Rukaya, because especially when you emphasized on early engagement with Whatfix University and close collaboration between all these different entities that we work with, it truly provides a clear roadmap to any other organization that might be considering a similar project. So thank you for sharing your particularly valuable advice. Now, my last question is to you, Alexis. Looking back, what would you say were the top 3 factors that contributed to the success of this implementation?
I would say for us, and I think for any ERP implementation, you're going to have a strong, flexible, resilient team. It is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You're going to hit some bumps along the way. You're going to need to pivot, when necessary. And I think that was all what we saw too in our collaboration with the Whatfix team, because they were pivoting with us, because they were staying resilient with us, because they were having to maintain flexibility as well. And so that was something that we really did appreciate. So you guys were essentially part of our implementation team right alongside our teammates, helping us identify where we were having problems, maybe where we thought something was a priority, and then we realized, oh no, this isn't as big of an issue as this, and we need to tackle this one first. So we really do appreciate you guys in that sense.
Yeah, that's the reality of these projects, right? So it's yeah, it was such a pleasure. I know my team loved working with you guys, and this is the end of our session. So I just want to say a big thank you to both of you for joining us today. I really hope this was helpful to everyone else, kind of to see how a digital adoption platform like Whatfix can transform. And it's not just about software. It's about, again, the entire organizational processes.
Yeah, absolutely, Doug. And I've just made my notes, and to me, the key takeaways are clear. We must choose the right tools early. We should foster strong partnership and embrace continuous learning. Your team's impressive 89.3% implementation rate shows what's possible with this approach.
Yeah, that's right. So again, thank you all for joining us, our attendees as well. And we hope you've gained something here about your own digital transformation journeys. Remember, it's just a successful project is about the people and processes as much as the technology. So after this webinar, if you need any more information, just please reach out to us, TAM or Whatfix. Just check out the resources we provided here, and or connect with us on LinkedIn. So thanks again. And here's to your successful digital transformations.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks all.